Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.
On News Hour tonight, gunmen kill 34 people in fresh Benue IDP camp attack, as President Buhari says attackers must be found and dealt with. Fire razes buildings, destroys property worth 38.8 million naira in Kwara State. President-elect Bola Tinubu in Easter message urges love regardless of tongue, faith, tribe. And on the foreign scene, at least 44 killed in terrorist attacks on 2 villages in Burkina Faso. Hello and welcome to Trust TV's News Hour. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. We begin in Benue State, where gunmen on Friday night killed 34 people in an attack on an internally displaced persons camp at a local primary school, Mogban, in Niev Council Ward of Guma local government area of Benue State. A resident simply identified as Jonah told newsmen that armed men attacked the community around 9 p.m. on Friday. He said a pregnant woman and her son were among those killed, while several others were injured. The security advisor of Guma Local Government Council, Christopher Waku, said 34 people were killed while over 40 others were injured. Waku disclosed that those killed were displaced from their various ancestral homes and were taking refuge in a classroom at the primary school. Police Public Relations Officer for Benue Command, Catherine Anene, confirmed the incident. And following the killing of over 50 persons by armed invaders in Umogidi village on Tuesday and Wednesday, the Benue State Governor has visited the area for on-the-spot assessment. During the visit, the Governor called for calm and assured that perpetrators will be apprehended and brought to book. Jimmy Azandi reports.
The villagers are devastated following the attacks which led to the death of scores of their loved ones. They are in shock, in fear and disbelief. Speaking through his deputy, Governor Samuel Otom called for calm as he appealed to the people to be more vigilant going forward.
We ourselves, we must be watchful. Let us watch and see what is happening. Let us watch if there are intruders coming. We should be able to make very quick report to the relevant authorities so that they can send the law enforcement agents to take care of the situation. The time has come for us to be watchful.
Chairman of the Tukpo Local Government Council, Bako Eje, an indigene of Omogidi whose son, brother-in-law and nephew were killed by the invaders, disclosed that there has been no internal or external aggression in the community and wonder why the gruesome attack.
4 days back, precisely, they killed 3 persons. They blockaded our road and robbed people of their belongings, machines. They cut it away with 4 machines. On their way, they met 3 men on a hunting expedition in the bush. They killed them. On the following day in the morning, we buried the 3 corpses. On the following, around 4 p.m., precisely at about 4:15 p.m., on the day we buried the 3 corpses, they just came on us at a surprise and invaded our community. And they killed 50 persons. That is what has happened. We have not offended them. We have not touched their cows. We didn't even attack them because we don't have any weapons. They are defenseless.
The youth who are agitated called for intervention as it was reported that they barricaded the federal highway in the area in protest.
But what we want to appeal you to do for us is the government of Benue State should please help us by the security strength. Because we don't want to go outside the constitution, we are now living at the mercies of the government by the security they provide for us. We didn't kill any of the cow, we didn't fight any of them. We are always at home. We don't go to our farms. They destroy all the farms. Even some of our cassava that are already planted, they pull it off for their cows. And we keep persons. So now we are relying on the government. Please, we need enough security to save the life of our people. And all the youth now are going back home. to stay in our home. Because that is our ancestral home. And that is where we are meant to stay, and we are going to stay there.
The state government delegation visited the displaced persons in Omogidi and toured areas where the killings took place.
Meanwhile, Governor Samuel Ortom of Benue State on Saturday called on the federal government to ensure that killers of Benue people are brought to justice. Ortom spoke when he visited Ngbang community in Guma local government area, where 36 people were killed in a fresh attack. He lamented that most of the victims were women and children. The governor also visited the 40 wounded victims of the attack receiving treatment at the Benue State University Teaching Hospital in Makudi. Some of the injured were said to be taken to other hospitals. And President Muhammadu Buhari has condemned the recent bout of killings in Benue State, in which tens of people were killed in Umogidi community of Ntekba Adoka in Otukpo local government area of the state. He also urged all efforts to be made to end what he called extreme violence. A statement from the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, said the President condemned the use of terrorism as a tool in inter-communal conflicts, urging that the attackers be found and dealt with swiftly. He conveyed his grief and sympathy to the families of those who lost their lives due to the attack and directed the secret police, the police and military commanders to enhance surveillance on every front and to immediately review the security management in the affected areas. And still on security matters, kidnappers of the 85 children in Zamfara state have demanded 60 million naira ransom, according to a family source. Suspected armed bandits had last Thursday abducted at least 100 persons from farmlands in Zamfara and Katsina states. A resident in Wanzame village in Tsafe local government area of Zamfara state, identified as Sani Wanzame, said about 80 children from Wanzame village were kidnapped, while more than 20 other persons from neighboring villages were also abducted. The source said the kidnappers, after negotiations, have reduced the ransom to 30 million naira and asked the families of the victims to go and think about it. However, the Commissioner of Police in the state, Kolo Yusuf, has reassured the public, especially families of the abducted women and children of Wanzame village in Tsafe local government area of the state, that the command, in collaboration with the military and vigilante, are making efforts to rescue the victims, Hale and Hurty, and reunite them with their families. Meanwhile, the kidnappers of a former deputy governor of Nasarawa State, Onje Giewado, have demanded 70 million naira ransom before he would be released. A top family member who has been monitoring the development said the abductors have finally reached out to the family since the abduction of the professor on Friday, demanding 70 million naira for his release. Trust TV earlier reported that Onje Giewado was kidnapped Friday morning in Gwagi village of Wamba local government area by unknown gunmen. The source added that the family members have been pleading with the kidnappers to collect 2 million naira instead of the 70 million that was requested because of the unavailability of cash. And there was tension in Lafia, the Nasarawa state capital, as unknown gunmen believed to be kidnappers killed a retired officer of the Nigeria Immigration Service, Jacob Agada. Reports say Agada was found dead a few hours after he was abducted by yet to be identified gunmen who mounted roadblocks around Ombi 2, Lafia, on Thursday night and whisked him away to an unknown location. The deceased was returning to his house when the hoodlums kidnapped him and later dumped his lifeless body in the area on Friday. A family source, while lamenting the insecurity in the area, urged relevant authorities to, as a matter of urgency, intervene to safeguard the lives and properties of residents there. The police is yet to issue a statement on the matter. And still talking security, gunmen in the early hours of Saturday attacked Chitumu, a community near Zuba town in Gwagwalada Area Council in the Federal Capital Territory. Secretary to the community's village head, Muhammad Liman, said the attackers, numbering about 15, arrived some minutes after 12 a.m. and went straight into the house of a cattle dealer, one Isiaka Dogara. According to Liman, the gunmen immediately abducted him and his 14-year-old daughter. They also shot dead his father, Alhassan Dogara, who had responded following persistent wailing from the wives of their abducted husband. The FCT Police Command is yet to respond to questions on the attacks. Earlier, while speaking on Trust TV's program Africa Update, a consultant, Kabiru Adamu, shared his perspectives on the resurgence of insecurity in the country.
Thank you. The common factor in all the incidents that we're monitoring at the moment is the involvement of armed non-state actors. So what that told us is they were there before the elections, and just ahead of the elections, the security deployment was able to limit their ability to move around and to carry out their nefarious activities. However, it appears that after the elections, the spaces have opened up, and they are now able to move around and carry on with their nefarious activities. In other words, we were able to suppress them by the massive security deployment. But sadly, that security deployment appeared to have withdrawn, and now the spaces are open again, and so they are moving around. I mean, in Kaduna, it's the same thing. It was these non-state armed groups. In Zamfara, the same thing. In Katsina, Niger, Borno, as well as Yobe State, it's all these non-state armed groups. So clearly, what we did during the elections and just before the elections was to contain them, keep them in certain places, and sadly now they're out again, continuing with their activities, as it were.
Now to Kaduna State, where the state government has removed the 12-hour curfew imposed on Sabon Garin Nasarawa Dirkania in Chukun local government area with effect from Saturday, 8th April 2023. The state government relaxed the 24-hour curfew following a close monitoring and assessment of the situation by security agencies. A statement issued by the Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arwan, said the military and police will continue to carry out patrols in the location as residents of the area may now go about their lawful activities. The statement also advises citizens to steer clear of activities capable of disrupting public peace, as these will be promptly dealt with in accordance with the law. And property worth over 38 million naira has been lost to an inferno that gutted a paint shop located around Balogun Afi at Itakure area of Ilorin, the Kwara State capital, on Saturday. The fire also razed 2 residential buildings and 5 other shops beside the paint shop, destroying the entire property. A statement by the spokesman of the Kwara State Fire Service, Hassan Adekule, said the fire was as a result of the chemical nature of the burning materials and blamed its escalation to the late calling of the fire service by sympathizers. Meanwhile, the director of Kwara State Fire Service, Prince Falade John Olumuyiwa, has urged the people of the state to always cultivate the habit of switching off their electrical appliances while leaving home and even before bedtime, adding that this could help in curbing fire outbreaks in the state. 3 persons were killed while 6 others sustained various degrees of injuries after 2 vehicles collided along the Abuja-Kaduna highway. An eyewitness, Idu Ibrahim, said the incident happened at a few minutes past 9 a.m. at Marabai Ida village on Saturday between a Toyota Highlander and a Volkswagen Golf. He attributed the incident to overspeeding. Our reporter, who arrived at the scene shortly after the accident, saw 2 corpses from the Volkswagen lying by the roadside and covered with grass, while some FRSC officials struggled to remove the driver, who was trapped inside the car. The 7 injured victims, which included 3 children, were rescued into the FRSC pickup van to the General Hospital in Sabon Wuse. An official of the FRSC, who was among officials trying to rescue the victims, said the 3 corpses have been handed over to their relatives after they identified their bodies at the scene. Meanwhile, 3 bodies have been recovered from Thursday's boat mishap at the Yenagoa Brass Waterway. Initial reports had stated that occupants of a passenger boat that capsized near Okoroma in Nembe local government area of Bayelsa swam to safety. The report said a cargo boat that was also involved in the accident sank. Chairman of the Bayelsa chapter of the Maritime Workers Union, Ipikansi Ogoniba, however, updated newsmen about the accident on Saturday in Yenagoa, saying the mishap involved only the cargo boat, which had an encounter with high waves. He said preliminary investigations showed that the cargo boat, MV Tari, had at least 100 passengers on board when the accident occurred, but some of the passengers swam to safety. He said one of the 3 corpses recovered, a woman, had been identified by relatives who took the remains to a mortuary in Yenagoa, while the 2 other male victims were awaiting identification. Police spokesman in Bayelsa, SP Asinim Butswat, confirmed the accident but said the casualty figure had yet to be ascertained. And to politics now, where the Conference of Nigerian Political Parties, Adamawa State Chapter, has passed a vote of confidence on the Independent National Electoral Commission Resident Electoral Commissioner for Adamawa State, Hudu Haruna. This follows the alleged threat to his life ahead of the April 15th Adamawa supplementary election, which is scheduled to hold in 69 polling units in the state. Salis Lawan has details.
It will be recalled the Adamawa Commissioner at Police CP Afolabi Adeniyi earlier won the State Resident Electoral Commissioner Hudu Yunusa against utterances which he said are capable of inciting public chaos. The CP gave the warning after the alleged threat to his life following the declaration of March 18 governorship election inconclusive in the state. To this end, the Conference of Nigerian Political Parties, led by State Chairman Jafaru Abbagiri, condemned intimidation and threat to Hudu Yunusa's life and stressed that the shall be allowed to complete the supplementary election slated for April 15, 2023.
We hold the view that calling for the removal of the whose life is threatened for refusing to submit to undemocratic excesses, executive tyranny, to consider doctoral results announced under the duress of a returning officer who was bundled like a criminal at a police station in Fufore, rather than a collection center as infringement of his human rights, professional abuse of due processes, and disrespect to the Independent National Electoral Commission and the rule of law. It is most unfortunate.
The coalition, which consists of 37 political parties, also commended the effort of the uncompromising military that guaranteed the security of the life of the resident electoral commissioner.
The incorruptible resident electoral commissioner, in our opinion, remains a hero of democracy who deserves a national honor when he must have successfully completed his assignment with the conduct of supplementary governorship election in Adamawa State that he assured will be credible and acceptable.
The father called on the electorate to condemn the election violence as well as intimidation before, during, and after the supplementary election. Salis Lawan, Trust TV News, Yola.
And still talking politics, the 36th state chairman of the Labour Party and some members of the party's National Working Committee have passed a vote of confidence in the leadership of the party's national chairman, Julius Abure. Addressing the press on Saturday, they said the action of Lamidi Apapa and a few individuals is illegal and decisions taken are null and void. Apapa had declared himself as the party's national chairman in the wake of a fresh legal crisis rocking the party, whose flag bearer, Peter Obi, is challenging the outcome of the February 25th presidential poll. The 36th state chairman of the party called on Abure, whom they recognize as the national chairman of the party, to immediately call for a national executive committee meeting. A Federal Capital Territory High Court on Wednesday sacked Abure as LP chairman and restrained 3 others from parading themselves as national officers of the party. This followed an ex parte application argued by James Onoja. However, a state high court sitting in Benin on the same day restrained LP and all its members from any suspension of its national officers till the determination of motion on notice. Still with us on Trust TV's News Hour, still ahead. We take a look at how killer birds invaded Katsina farms. Details of this and more after the break. Do stay with us.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us on Trust TV's News Hour. Now let's take another look at our top stories. Gunmen kill 34 people in fresh Benue IDP camp attack, as President Buhari says attackers must be found and dealt with. And fire razes buildings, destroys property worth 38.8 million naira in Kwara. And in other news, the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu has urged Nigerians to reflect on the priceless sacrifice and limitless love of God for mankind as Christians celebrate Easter. He also reminded all to remember their obligation as God's children to love their neighbor regardless of tongue, faith and tribe. In his Easter message to Nigerians, Tinubu enjoined all to imbibe the essential message of Christ's ministry and truly begin to love one another as Christ loved the church. He assured that Nigeria will make faster progress towards the achievement of the peaceful, united, strong, progressive and prosperous country if we eschew divisive, parochial and ethnic religious sentiments and rivalries and begin to live more harmoniously with our compatriots. Meanwhile, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2023 general elections, Atiku Abubakar, says ethnicity and religion are not the problems of Nigeria's development. The former vice president stated this in his message posted on his verified Facebook page on Saturday, commemorating this year's Easter. According to Atiku, Easter celebration was a time for deep reflection as it marked the sacrifice of Jesus Christ and his victory over death. Atiku urged leaders at all levels to follow the virtues of sacrifice, love and charity which define the season and come together to help all Nigerians resolve the differences that divide the nation. He said Nigerians must collectively own their problems and collectively find solutions to overcome them. And as Christians around the world observe the Easter celebration, which marks the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, clerics have called on Nigerians to observe the season with sober reflection amid other challenges in the country. They made the call as part of their messages to Nigerians on the occasion of the 2023 Easter celebrations. The report.
While emphasizing on the death of Christ and its benefit for the restoration of hope to mankind on gaining salvation, the Christian clerics enjoined all Christians to keep hope alive despite the challenges mankind is facing.
We celebrate the sacrifice Jesus Christ made for the sin of the whole world. We celebrate the love of God shown to salvage the heart, and we also celebrate the forgiveness we enjoy from Jesus' atoning sacrifice and many others. So the message simply is that Christ is reminding us that if we continue to look up to him, there is hope. When we continue to call on him, there is hope. When we continue to depend on him, there is hope. But amidst this hope, we should learn to make sacrifices. We should learn to show forgiveness. We should learn to love one another.
For us who are Christians, we know that there is no Easter Sunday without Good Friday. There is no celebration without suffering. There is no crown without pains. So today is the day that Christ really suffered and died so that we will live. And like with special reference with the 10th station, Jesus was stripped naked. You know, what does the nakedness of Jesus Christ signify to us? It teaches us that we can actually naked him with his clothes, but we cannot naked his nature of love, his nature of forgiveness, his nature of compassion, his nature of showing concern for everybody.
They also called on political leaders to emulate the virtues of Christ as exemplified in self-sacrifice, love, patience, and commitment to the good of others to ensure the nation grows to greater heights.
Because the country is divided, then this is the time for us to preach the message of peace. Especially those of us who call ourselves people of faith, this is the time to reconcile. Why did Jesus die? He died to reconcile man to God. Let's find one way of reconciliation. Look, those who have won or those who have been announced by INEC to have won must find a way to seek for reconciliation, seek for amending fences. But when you think you are right and you allow your followers to insult everybody, you have the challenge of leading nobody. You have the challenge of leading a divided community.
Christ's resurrection and ascension, which is the climax of the season, gives the assurance that all things done in the name of Jesus and for his purposes will be victorious.
And some Muslims in Jos, the Plateau State capital, have been telling Trust TV their food preferences during the Ramadan fast. Now, some said apart from taking fruits while breaking their fast, they also eat other kinds of food to regain energy needed to keep their bodies alive. Ado Musa completes the story.
Muslims across the world engage in fasting, considered one of the pillars of Islam in the month of Ramadan. They adjust to the time and type of food they take during the month. Throughout the period, fasting Muslims prefer certain dishes to the others, as different people consider one food as favorite, while others may not see that same dish as favorite.
So I always used to consider food that will not make me thirsty during the day. So that is why I always look at food that are not that solid. For instance, chips.
But most of the times I prefer either you have rice, and stew itself, or once in a while I also even take tuwo.
They also explain what they prefer while breaking the fast.
The food I cherish most is pap, which is in Hausa called kunu, particularly while mixed with tamarind, that is tsamiya, kunun tsamiya.
One is familiar with taking death, even not during Ramadan. And then fruits. These are basically what follows. And light meals, such as spaghetti.
During the month of Ramadan, fruit sellers experience increased demand as more people take them before main meals. We thank Allah for appreciation in demand for our goods. There is a great difference between now and before Ramadan. Our sales have increased. Before this time, Naira policy affected the business, but now we appreciate everything. I sell mango around this area. Honestly, my sales have improved during this Ramadan. The quantity of what I sell has increased. I'm happy with the situation. The Executive Secretary, Plateau State Pilgrims Board, Sheikh Awal Abdullahi, explains why taking fruit is significant during the month of Ramadan.
From the Islamic perspective, it is important that person takes fruit regularly, particularly when he's fasting. If you fast, when you come to the breaking of the fast, the noble Prophet ﷺ has suggested that you break the fast with fruit. Some of the fruits include dead palm, the one we call dabino. It is very, very rich. It has glucose.
Ramadan fast takes place from dawn until sunset and is believed to be one of the pillars of Islam. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
And still talking Ramadan, too many internally displaced persons roaming major streets in Katsina State. The month has come with relief as they now have regular meals with ease. In the spirit of Ramadan, many philanthropists make meals available for distribution to the needy, clothing materials for orphans and widows to give them a sense of belonging. Abdullahi Ahmadi reports that while some well-to-do distribute prepared meals for breaking a fast, an online association chose to distribute assorted food items. His report.
To this man whose 10 cows were rustled 2 days ago at Salehawa village of Batagara local government, coming to Katsina is just to comfort himself from the grief that come with the loss. He said bandits arrived their community at night, shooting indiscriminately and sacking all residents after rustling thousands of their domestic animals. To him, he has no reason to eat, as he is emotionally drained, but is only here to collect for his wife and children. My coming to Katsina is a personal decision. I'm not familiar with the city. For over 50 years of my existence, I came to Katsina only 4 times. But the distance between Salehawar Batagarawa and Katsina is just less than 4 kilometers. My life and my family are in danger. For Malam Abubakar, a displaced person from Batsari, the struggle has not been an easy one since he and his 1 wife and 8 children were forced out of their community 3 years ago. Though he makes local baskets as a trade, proceeds from it cannot meet the basic needs of his family, meaning that he has to rely on alms, especially in the month of Ramadan, to augment his means of livelihood. When I was in the village, I had a lot of opportunities, but look at me now, waiting for a meal to break my fast. And the irony is, I will be given 1 plate only, which I will go home and share among 11 people until the next day. Trust TV captured some associations who choose to distribute assorted food items to the needy. To Muslims across the globe, Ramadan is a period for not only fasting, but also a month of sharing, sober reflection, perseverance, humility, and togetherness not only among the faithful but people from other faiths alike. Abdullahi Ismail Ahmadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
And now to Kano State, where the State Pilgrims Welfare Board has called on prospective pilgrims who deposited some amount of money with the board to balance up the remaining Hajj fare on or before April 21st. The Executive Secretary of the board, Muhammad Abad Ambata, made the call in an interview with newsmen in Kano on Saturday. He said collection of Hajj fare was soon close as the exercise was getting closer by the day. Abad Ambata, who said prospective pilgrims should pay 2.9 million naira as Hajj fare, attributed the increase to rising dollar exchange rate and the increase in tax revenue from Saudi Arabia and airlines. He said screening of prospective pilgrims would commence after April 21st, when the fair would have closed across the 44 local government areas of the state. Meanwhile, more Nigerians have continued to condemn calls for an interim national government following revelations that some key players were plotting for it in the country. Northeast coordinator of the Good Governance Ambassadors, Musa Tsoken, said such calls were inimical to the unity and development of the country and as such not to be allowed the light of day. Tsoken commended Nigeria's northern governors for insisting and supporting the emergence of a president of southern extraction to ensure balance and equity, which he noted will further cement Nigeria's indivisibility. He enjoined all stakeholders in the coming supplementary elections in Kebbi and Adamawa to ensure that the outcome reflects the will of the people, especially in Adamawa, where sentiments are rife due to the presence of a woman on the ballot.
Anybody that will come out, not in the court of law, to proclaim anything that is contrary to the injunction of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria shouldn't be taken lightly. Electioneering process have been taking place and people have exercised their franchise. And if there's any cause for alarm, this should be redressed in the court of law. Not anybody trying to take the issues in his hand by proclaiming interim government. So the issue of interim government is dead at Aravan.
And the governor-elect of Katsina State, Dikko Redda, says the local government is an autonomous part of government and will be treated as such. Dikko, who disclosed this, also said the local government would be allowed to function fully, but under supervision to make sure that funds are utilized properly.
There was check and balances at that time.
So is that something you will want to do yourself as the governor?
Of course, this is exactly what I want to do. I will establish a very strong inspectorate or ministry for local government and make it functional, and then allow local government free hands to get their money, do what they want to do, but under a guide, so that we ensure that money are being spent appropriately and there is value for the money given to them. You know, if you allow the system just to run like that freely without any intervention or without any inspection or monitoring, you end up seeing a lot of things that you may not want to see. And the people may end up suffering because when their money is being spent uselessly or recklessly, that means the people will suffer the more. But when the local government are functional, you hardly see people in the office of the governor because small contracts, they get it from their local government. Small jobs, they get it, the small projects are being done in the local government. And in some instances, you see a joint project.
The full interview will be aired on Trust TV on Monday, April 10th at 7 p.m. Quilla birds have reportedly destroyed farm produce worth hundreds of millions of naira in the last few days in Katsina. Irrigation farmers across Katsina State, especially at Ajiwa in Batagarawa, Dambiram and Danakula in Daura and Mayadwa, as well as those in Dutsi, Jibia, Keita and Mashi, have all reported the presence and destruction caused by the birds. Abdullahi Ahmadi completes the story.
This is the extent to which birds are destroying farm produce, while farmers are left with local methods of dispersing the invading Quilla birds. Crops worst affected are maize, rice, and tomatoes, with millions of naira worth of losses incurred to irrigation farming. These farms are vulnerable to alien Quilla birds because of their proximity with Niger Republic, which is less than 50 kilometers away. The Quilla birds invade farms in batches. They come in hundreds and in thousands. We need urgent intervention to reduce the impact of these birds. They have destroyed hundreds of thousands of farms. A source close to Katsina State Ministry of Agriculture confirmed the presence of the invading birds, adding that a surveillance team was dispatched to the affected areas with a view to addressing the problem. The source told Trust Television in Katsina that the State Ministry of Agriculture, in collaboration with its federal counterpart, is planning an aerial spray to reduce the impact of the Quilla birds. Stakeholders are hopeful authorities concerned will give the situation the urgent attention it deserves in order to prevent further destruction, which will negatively impact on the nation's desire to achieve food security. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
And to Nasarawa State now, where the state government says it has taken steps to mitigate the effects of flooding, open defecation and farmers-herders clashes in the state. The Deputy Governor, Emmanuel Akabe, disclosed this during an emergency meeting with some critical stakeholders in Lafia. Abubakar Abdullahi sent in the report as presented from our studio.
The meeting, held at the instance of the State Deputy Governor, Emmanuel Akabe, had in attendance the representatives of the State Commissioner of Police and heads of relevant ministries and agencies, where issues surrounding best ways to address flooding, open defecation and farmers-herders skirmishes and the state before the commencement of the rainy season were discussed, with the aim of reducing their impact on livelihoods. Addressing the meeting, the State Deputy Governor, Emmanuel Akabe, said the state is among flood-prone states, hence the need to take precautionary measures.
The rains have started coming. And even though we've not had plenty of it yet in Nasarawa State or other parts of the country, we started having rains. And we know that Nasarawa State is one of those states that are prone to flooding. Past years we've been experiencing many damaging effects of floods. And this time around we thought that we should be proactive.
Earlier in his submission, Executive Secretary, State Emergency Management Agency Zakaria Alumaga, said several states, including Nasarawa, have received warnings from the National Emergency Management Agency on the likelihood of multiple floods in different locations across the country.
NEMA and other agencies invited us to Abuja earlier in February and warned us that there is a likelihood that there are going to be floods twice in Nigeria this year. One will be between February and April, and then the other one is likely to be between August and October.
Also speaking, the State Commissioner for Information, Yakubu Lawal, said measures have been taken to mitigate possible farmer-herders crisis associated with the rainy season.
On the issue of the farmers and herder crisis, already a committee was also set up to also look at some of the issues surrounding farmers and herders crisis and to also submit its own report in the next 2 weeks.
With this interface between stakeholders, experts in the state are of the views that if suggestions and recommendations of the meeting are implemented, issues of flooding, farmers, herders, crisis, among other challenges, will be avoided.
That report was put together by Abubakar Abdullahi from Nasarawa. Now, the police command in Adamawa says it has arrested a 70-year-old man, Usman Ibrahim, for allegedly raping 2 minors in Yola North local government area. The command's spokesman, Suleiman Nguroje, disclosed this in a statement on Saturday in Yola. He said that the survivors were 4 and 7-year-olds, both residents of Ajia Street, Jimeta. According to the statement, the Commissioner of Police, Afolabi Babatola, ordered for a thorough and clinical investigation. Nguroje further stated that preliminary investigations so far revealed that the suspect is a father of 3 and now living alone after he separated from his wife 10 years ago. You're still watching Trust TV's News Hour. The news continues shortly after this break. Stay with us.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Already, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
That's great. Good to see you.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us on Trust TV's News Hour. Now let's join Chiamaka Nwafo for business news.
The World Bank's ongoing reform could result in a $50 billion lending boost over the next decade. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen told AFP ahead of stakeholders meetings next week where key changes are expected to be announced. Central bankers, finance ministers, and participants from more than 180 member countries are expected to gather in the U.S. Capitol for the International Monetary Fund and World Bank spring meetings in the coming week. A key topic of discussion will be the World Bank's evolution amid a push for lenders to revamp and meet global challenges like climate change. The United States is the largest shareholder of the World Bank Group. Yellen also said there would be an announcement on updating the bank's operational model to orient it towards the goals the bank is setting. In March, the World Bank submitted an evolution plan to be discussed with its Development Committee on April 12th during the spring meetings. The Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, of the United Nations, says global food prices declined for the 12th consecutive month in March. The UN agency released its latest food price index on Friday. The organization said the index, which tracks international prices of the most globally traded food commodities, averaged 126.9 points last month, down 2.1% from February, as well as 20.5% below its all-time peak in March 2022. FAO said the decline in March 2023 was largely caused by drops in cereal, vegetable oil, and dairy price indices. However, the prices of sugar and meat increased during the period, according to the report. And finally, in stocks, the market opened for 4 trading days this week as the federal government of Nigeria declared Friday 7th April and Monday 10th April as public holidays to mark the Easter celebration. A total turnover of 1.054 billion shares worth 10.050 billion naira in 16,155 deals was traded this week by investors on the floor of the exchange. The financial services industry, measured by volume, led the activity chart, with the conglomerate and the oil and gas industries following in second and third place, respectively. The NGX All Share Index and market capitalization depreciated by 2.28% to close the week at 52,994.13 points and 28.869 trillion naira, respectively. 16 equities appreciated in price during the week. 37 depreciated in price, while 103 equities remain unchanged. And that's it on Business News. I am Chiamaka Mwafo.
Thank you, Chiamaka, for that business update. Now let's take a look at the foreign scene, where 44 civilians have been killed by armed terrorist groups in 2 villages in northeastern Burkina Faso near the Niger border. Regional Governor Rudolph Sergo said on Saturday that the attack targeted the villages of Kourakou, where 31 people died, and Tondobi, where 13 people were killed. The regional official said an army offensive put out of action the armed terrorist groups that carried out the killings, adding that actions to stabilize the area are underway. The twin attacks happened close to the village of Seitenga, where 86 civilians were killed last June in one of the bloodiest attacks of a long-running insurgency. The impoverished Sahel country is grappling with a 7-year-old campaign by terrorists linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group. Burkina Faso's new military chief on Thursday vowed to set up a dynamic offensive against terrorists following a string of insurgent attacks since the start of the year. And a truck has crashed into pedestrians and motorcycle taxis near Kenya's western border with Tanzania, killing at least 10 people and injuring 10 others. The crash in the town of Migori happened along a major highway when the driver lost control of the vehicle on Saturday. An operation to free people trapped under the truck was underway, with fears the death toll might rise, Migori Police Commander Mark Wanjala said. According to Wanjala, 2 more people were reported to have been knocked across a bridge into a river. Witnesses told local media that the truck driver honked the vehicle's horn repeatedly before the crash. The truck was carrying bags of rice towards the Isambania border town into neighboring Tanzania. Meanwhile, in sports, Bendel Insurance rallied to hold Kwara United to a 1-1 draw in their Nigeria Premier Football League Matchday 13 encounter at the Samuel Ogbumudia Stadium, Benin City, on Saturday. Alao Mohammed scored from a superb free kick in the 68th minute to hand Kwara United the lead. The home team fought back and equalized through Deputy Echeta 12 minutes from time. Echeta also scored the equalizing goal in Insurance's 1-1 draw against Plateau United last weekend. The Benin Arsenal preserves their unbeaten streak but could see their lead at the top of Group A log further cut down by Awka United on Sunday. In another MPFL game, Dakada defeated Doma United 1-0 in Uyo. It was Doma United's first defeat in 4 outings. The 8 remaining fixtures will be played on Sunday. And with that, we wrap up Trust TV's News Hour for tonight. Don't forget, for more news, you can subscribe to our 24-hour YouTube channel and, of course, follow us across all our social media platforms. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Have a lovely evening.
From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.